2, 1. We're live.
Farts. Old farts. 2 old farts. Steve and Dave. Sometimes you find a diamond in the rough. Not this time, though. This is just rough. 2 old farts. There is no better waste of time. Two guys. 2 old guys. A lot of BS and more drivel than you can shake a stick at. Steve and Dave. God help us.
You gotta love that intro with the Mr. Vega there. That's very nice.
Yeah. He makes it. He's one of the few things that have survived through all the different. We try to keep things refreshing, all the graphics and stuff, and he's like from the get-go.
You gotta make Mr. Vega's the best. So he has his own show called Vaguely News or Vaguely True, depending on my mood when I put it up. Which comes out, I think, every Sunday morning.
That sounds very vague, Stephen.
It's very vague. No, it is very vague. I should drink more scotch this morning, I think. But I'm very excited. Yeah. We have a guest today.
Are you?
Well, I'm sure. Why not? I got to be excited. And my joke with her when I first met her was, I called her Doris, the one-eyed hedge fund person, and that goes to a whole other thing because of the name of her hedge fund and whatever. So she was like a pirate. So that's how I have her in my Rolodex. So when something comes up, it just says her Doris and her last name and the one-eyed hedge fund pirate. So that's how I know her. So
we're talking about.
We're not going to talk about a hedge fund.
Are we talking about hedges today then, or funds?
Well, we were going to talk about hedges, but the gardener couldn't make it. So today we're going to talk about a book that she wrote. And unfortunately, once again, David, I got a copy and she autographed it. She said to a wonderful lover. And she realized that was the wrong person, and she gave me one just to Steve, which is fine. And then the other thing, the reason you didn't get a copy is because there's no pictures. This is once again a book with words.
It's nothing to do with the fact that it wasn't sent to me. Then that's.
Well, no. And the fact that when people give me a book, they go, "Is there anybody else we should give a book to?" And the first thing I say, "Are there pictures?" And they go, "No." Like, "No, this is good." And so it works out that way. But yeah, I mean, we can get you a book. I got that crayon book.
Well, if that happens, then let me know because I have to order the crayons again from.
Yes, you color outside the lines. There you go. So should we bring in Miss Doris?
Yes, because I'm interested to know about hedge fund.
Sorry,
the book.
The book's not about hedge funds. It's about a girl.
Oh, right.
Hi, everybody.
There's Doris, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And before we even start, so the people on the podcast, you won't be able to see it, so we'll have to tell you the title. Hold up the book so the people on YouTube, there's the book, and tell everybody the name of the book.
It's called Ada and the Supercomputer. The girl's name is Ada, and the book is about her building a supercomputer. So the title of the book is Ada and the Supercomputer. It's available on Amazon.
Right.
There you go.
And at all good other bookstores as well, or just on Amazon?
On Barnes & Noble as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's another big online store. I take it in the US, Barnes & Noble.
Yes.
They're pretty. They used to be pretty big globally, but I think they died.
Amazon just kills everything.
I know. It's like Walmart killed.
Let's hope it doesn't kill your book now.
No, stop it.
Well, listen, the book is priced at $17.89, and I keep under $4 for every sale. So I think Amazon is very happy to have my book there.
Yeah, really. Amazon, communist bastards. But Bezos, how much money do you need? Seriously. Anyway, let's talk about the book. So tell us the premise. I've read the book. It is a thriller.
Can I just ask you, is it a self-published book?
It's a self-published book. So I didn't know it took 8 years to write, and then it was kind of sitting on my desk for a year, and I was like, oh man, I really need to get this book out there. So I had queried something like 50 agents. Nobody really tells you how impossible it is to get an agent. It's pretty much, it's harder than getting into Harvard or MIT. and I should know because I went to MIT. So it's very, very difficult. And out of those 50 agents, I got something like 40 no's, 3 maybes, like send us the manuscript, send us the next 50 pages. And the whole thing was taking literally 6 to 12 months. And I was just fed up. And I was just like, I'm not doing this to make money. I need this to be in the world. So, did everything myself. Just needed to get it out there. And I did. And it was the best decision I made. It's very easy to get it out there, but it's very, very hard to get the word out. So an agent, presumably, I've heard, helps get the word out. But from speaking to a number of best-selling authors, they basically say, even with an agent, you have to do like a ton of marketing yourself. It's no joke, publishing books. I think writing them is easier than publishing or getting people to read them. But the good news is the book was an Amazon bestseller for the first few weeks, and that was a kind of an amazing experience. So I would log in, and authors have their own platform and their page, and basically it was just like bestsellers this week. It was like The Outsiders, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, like number 3, like Lord of the Rings, number 4, Ada and the Supercomputer, and I was like, this can't be right. So I would like refresh the page. I was like, the algorithm is broken. So it was like a pretty surreal experience, but I didn't keep up the marketing, and sales have kind of plummeted. But the feedback.
You didn't feel at that moment as you wanted to take a copy of it and run around the block and say, "I'm number 3 on Amazon."
I kind of did, but that only lasts for like 10 hours until everybody knows about it.
I quite by accident ended up being number 1 on Amazon. On Google search for about a week for a website that I had. So. And I dined out on that for at least a year and a half. So
that's always a thrilling
David, that's
experience.
because you stood outside your house with no pants on, and so that went viral. That's the reason. Let's go.
No. That was the photo that they took they used for the restraining order. That was the one.
Okay, I always get those two things confused. So.
That was the one.
So we've had several authors on. We have, as you know, a ton of shows, right? And we figured this would be the best show because it's like it's more fun. It's a kid's book because all the other shows are either business or political, and we figured
young adult.
Young adults. I'm sorry. Yes,
everybody says kids. It's not quite. Yeah, I mean, Amazon listed as 8+. I would, if you're a really super precocious 8-year-old, go for it. I would say it's more like 12+, 10+. I like to say I write for myself at 12 and for myself now, so I think it's applicable to adults too. But broadly speaking, it would be like in the young adults category.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
and
there's of course all these autistic kids that are all reading it at 6 and 7 and. I
don't know about 6. I tried reading it to my 6-year-old, and it was too many questions to continue smoothly. So I was like, all right, let's wait a few years.
Was that sort of force feeding her the book then? You have to listen to this. Forget Jack and Jill. You're having this.
Mommy wrote a book.
Supercomputer.
What Mommy says. So we'll tell everybody the premise of the book, and then what we'll make sure is we put the links below to Amazon. So globally, people can click it and buy it. And on the podcast, we'll put the link as well. And then if they want, they can buy it. If not, they'll have to come over to the YouTube channel and find us, but they can do it there. But tell everybody the premise of the book, the idea behind the book, because you're not spoken about this. So tell everybody that didn't get to hang out with you for 2 hours, the whole premise and how it got from A to Z.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the origin story is interesting, and maybe we'll go into that later. Sure. But the premise of the book is basically, so I'm a mathematician. I have a math PhD, and I decided not to continue in academia. But working, a 9 to 5, it was more like, 7 to 7 at the time, I found the experience a bit soul crushing, to say the least. And I needed something, just a labor of love. So I started writing this book now close to 10 years ago, but by the time it was published, 8 years prior to publication. And I had no idea what it was going to be about. I just needed to, I think the question that originated everything was, if I were to die tomorrow, what would I want my kids to know? I didn't have kids at the time, but sort of like the proverbial, like the world's kids, what message would I want to leave behind? And I felt like I had spent so much time becoming an expert in this very small niche of a mathematical field called random matrix theory. And at the time I was working as a trader on Wall Street, very different from what I had done. And prior to working as a trader, I had never thought about money or doing things outside of sort of for the sake of it, because I love doing it. So I needed to get back into this, and because I'm a very technical person, and because I saw the writing on the wall with AI and CS, so to speak, 10 years ago, and at the same time, I felt like here I am. I've worked really hard my whole life, and I'm spending 10 hours a day sitting in front of a computer. I felt like the world, was going to be eaten up by technology and computers, and I felt like humans were becoming slaves to computers and technology as opposed to the other way around. So what eventually transpired in kind of like this Freudian subconscious, like meddling of everything that was going on in my head and in the world, was a story about this 13-year-old girl named Ada, who is an only child, she had brilliant parents. The dad basically worked from home as a video game producer and designer, and kind of like a autistic savant, so to speak, like kind of emotionally stunted, but very, very technologically brilliant. And the mother was a stay-at-home and very much involved with raising Ada to be a force of nature. So they would tinker and build everything, and she was very much against the BS stereotypes fed by society to young girls, and very much against social media. So she never got a cell phone. Long story short, she gets in a huge fight with her mom on Thanksgiving Day because she wants a cell phone. Her mom's strongly against it. I'm not going to spoil the book. The mom gets in a terrible car crash that leads to her death. Ada, an only child, blames herself, kind of for good reason, over her mother's death. So you can imagine the trauma that causes. And it's just her and her dad. Her dad locks himself in his office building video games. She's completely, emotionally traumatized. Now, Ada doesn't know anything about this, but the dad's aunt is a genius biotech startup founder in Silicon Valley, and she's just an absolutely incredible person and a woman. But Ada doesn't really know much about her aunt. Her aunt, at the same time, understands enough about her brother to know that he's dropping the ball on dealing with the death of the mother. So she basically moves in with them for a few weeks to kind of help heal the family. During this time, Ada discovers the famous aunt and the biotech and the genius that she is. And the last thing her and her mom were supposed to do together was build a computer. So now that she has her Aunt Lizzie at her disposal and Aunt Lizzie's genius brain, she decides to take it one step further and build a supercomputer in pursuit of very much existential and philosophical questions about why terrible things happen to bad people and why society is the way it is and what the meaning of life is. So that's the tip of the iceberg about what the book is about. It's really a story about philosophy, adventure, and resiliency. It's a story about kids learning how to be gardeners as opposed to assembly line workers, which is what we're creating in the world.
So basically, it's a light read for the kids. No, I'm just kidding.
It can be read on many levels. It can be read on many levels.
I was just going to say I'm going to have to cancel my rainbow crayons and get a slightly darker palette, I think, because it's
a very hopeful story, but it's not easy. Did
I miss the bit about her, slashing the brake lines on her mother's car to make sure it crashed? Did I miss all that? Or
that's the suspense, David. Don't give the book away. There's a whole bunch of stuff. She's in the will. Relax.
There's a number of mysterious elements to the book. You're going to have to read it to find out.
When I read it, I enjoyed it tremendously. And I was like, this is a good read. And we were joking when we met. We were at a family office conference. And we were joking that there was a lady that knew, I think it was Spielberg or something. And we're like, hey, you should get this to Spielberg. This is a great movie. So it really would make a really good flick.
This has a movie written all over it.
I know.
I think it would be an incredible movie. I don't go to the movies very often. I went to watch Oppenheimer and another one. I forgot the name of it.
That was a comedy. I enjoyed
American Fiction. So I went to watch American Fiction, and you know how they have the advertisements before the movie starts. And the junk that's out there, the crap, I was just like, what are they feeding these kids? It's sex, it's propaganda, it's garbage. I was like, freaking pick up 8 on the supercomputer or freaking making it to the movie. That's a story for you. I mean, I'm a little biased, but I try to, put good things out there in the world.
We try to dumb it down for kids, unfortunately, even young adults, even for adults, because remember, in the TikTok age and in the Instagram age, most people's attention span is about 30 seconds, if that, like their love lives. It's the same thing. And that includes the foreplay and the begging. But at the end of the day, that's what they're teaching them is like, you only need this much. Like we talk about this on some of the other shows. I still like to read the newspaper, the Financial Times, the Journal, the Times. I like to read it. I like to read books that are paper. I mean, I take hours to read stuff because I want to immerse myself. But they don't teach that today, right? It's like scroll, 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 swipe, 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 scrolls. And that's the problem. So when you get a book like yours that comes out where it's going to require little Johnny or Susie to sit there, kind of like what they did when Harry Potter came out, right? Because when Harry Potter came out, kids read. So it was like, oh my God. So this is the same.
And there were school teachers were saying, well, they shouldn't be reading that. They shouldn't be reading that. And these kids were just, eating it, literally eating the books as they came to them. Oh, I had that. It's lovely. I have some more of that.
Yeah, I don't know if this is apocryphal, but apparently the way J.K. Rowling queried something like 12 agents, she got like 12 rejections or 11 before the 12th one or more. Before somebody said yes. And do you know why the agent that took her on said yes? It's because he was reading the manuscript. He thought it was close to not good, for lack of a stronger word. He took it home because his wife called him for dinner, and he flings the manuscript on his couch to help his wife in the kitchen. His 12-year-old daughter picks it up, and she literally can't put it down. And he's like, what the hell? She never reads. What's going on? And she's like, I gotta sign this woman on. That was it. It was his daughter.
Yeah, she spent most of her life sitting in a cafe
reading. On welfare, no less. But the other part of the story, which she told, the agent, I guess, told her, it was on a Saturday. He was actually at the office, and he wasn't supposed to be there. And it literally was like in the pile of, for lack of a better word, crap. And he was just sort of like, I'm going to read it. I don't care. Like, I got to read. I got to whatever, because they needed something. So to your point, he was literally about to go into the waste paper basket. So when he went home and dropped it down, yes, his daughter picked it up. And if it wasn't for the 12-year-old daughter, who she should be getting a royalty, J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter wouldn't be alive today. She would have just written a book. Yeah. So yours is I'm hoping agents aren't throwing it in the crap pile, but I'm just saying yours is a great read. The problem is that an agent, whether there's 10 of them or 10,000 of them, get 100 manuscripts a day, right? So it sort of comes to a point where I think the speed reading course, remember that when we were kids, the Evelyn Wood speed reading course? It's like, okay. So I think if you don't catch them in the first paragraph, which is once again the 30-second mindset, they don't take the time to read it and really get into it. I mean, like I read a book called A Nasty Bit of Rough. It's 400 pages, but until you get to page 54, you just don't want to read it. And when you get to page 55, it's the funniest book till you finish it, but you have to want to sit there and read it. And most people don't have patience anymore, which is crazy. So, but I think your book is good right off the bat. So
yeah, I think a little bit of guerrilla marketing then really, Doris, for you, and forget the literary agents, because as you both know already, that train's already left. But you've got people who read, review books online and book clubs online. There are, women's institutes everywhere, certainly in the UK, who have book clubs. People have book clubs. That's like the new thing. The Gen Zs, strangely enough, love book clubs. So, get it into the book club. Get people. There's a thing on the BBC called A Good Read. Just Google A Good Read, BBC, send them off a book. They're going to review it. I'm
writing this down. A good read.
If you miss it, you can just watch the broadcast. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we told people when we interview them, we're like, you can use the interview, and we tell them it's yours to use. You can clip it, snip it, put shorts. You do whatever you want with it to talk about your book. Put it on the book's website. We don't care. We do this for the peoples, not for us.
But I think you have to think outside the box, because what the story that you're telling now is the same story as, and that sounds very rude, same stories that we always hear when we interview artists. Exactly the same. So who's seen your art? Oh, my husband, the dog, the kids, the neighbors kind of said they liked it, and that's it. And all this genius gets put away. And the few that make it are the few that actually start to shout in the most strangest of places. And you just need that little bit of luck. Because,
I agree.
You just say to people, why I'm going to give you a book, and you have to tell me why you shouldn't read it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not you should read it. You should read it.
Yeah.
No, I'll give you read that. Tell me why you shouldn't read it.
That's a great point. And also, with there's so much junk out there, and I think a very high signal way of filtering out what my kids should consume is if it's a labor of love, because if it's a labor of love, it's already in such a rare pile of material that they would otherwise consume. So much of the motivation for a lot of the stuff that's available is definitely not love, right? So if you get an expert in something, or a smart person, or somebody whose intentions are aligned with goodness and truth and value, and it's a labor of love, I think that's a pretty high, strong signal for, something you should pick up and check out.
I can't wholeheartedly agree with you on that, because we spoke about J.K. Rowling. I think maybe the first book she wrote was a labor of love, and after that it was please fill my bank account.
Full disclosure, I haven't read the Harry Potter books.
Okay.
I might be like the only person on the planet.
No.
It's a guy named Potter. He's very hairy. You're not missing anything. You're all good.
I've watched the movies.
I haven't read the books. I haven't seen the movies, but I've been surrounded by, when my kids were younger, they were reading that. They were reading lots of young adult books, like it was a whole series of Dolphia the Wolfia or something, like a werewolf stories and stuff. Right. And again, the same thing. Nobody wanted it, and he was just in the right place at the right time, or at the right book club, or and just go on the radio, get on all the book review programs, call up, say, I've got this book, can I give it to you? Because the thing is, you see, nobody else is going to do it for you.
Absolutely.
And if they are, then it's going to be at least 10 points, 15 points, 20 points.
Mm-hmm. And even if you go on a television show like Today or something, your publisher pays for you to get on. I learned all about this recently. Even like music bands have the same thing. So when you get on these morning shows, they pay to get on. And then that just gets, like you have to sell enough to cover your debt, so to speak. Yeah. And coming from MIT, you understand that. So, so with us, it's great. You can come on and tout your book and tell everybody how wonderful it is, and show the cover, and we'll put the link, and then hopefully 5 people buy it. So,
I love it.
I love it. That's the best way to do it. Yeah. And it's a book for young adults. So I apologize when I said it was for children. But that was for David's sake. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, David.
No, you see, you have to say children of all ages. Then was it?
That's true.
From 8 to 80, or
absolutely children of all
8 to 108. Because sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say from 80. I mean, 80 is kind of young these days with AI and stuff. They're saying if you can survive for the next 20 years, at least half a century of good health will be added into your life. I just read this at some fancy tech article I was
listening to something last week, and it was saying there are more people who are 100 plus in now than ever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it seems to be that if you can dodge the health bullet in your 80s, then without being run over by a bus, you have a really good chance of being 100 plus.
Yeah.
And there was and for you, Stephen, the oldest lady, people. I think, was the oldest.
Nobody's having kids, so who knows?
I know, right?
The oldest woman, I think, was a French woman. She was like 135 or something, and she started drinking. She started drinking and smoking when she was 18.
Yeah, that's right.
But she thought, why not?
Yeah. So, listen, I just came from my physical, which I'm 100 million years old, and on Helper he says I'm more 20 and 30-year-olds, and I'm a Scotch and cigar guy, and he's always like, you shouldn't do that. But meanwhile, my lungs are clean, my blood, there's nothing wrong. And and the nurses laugh because they're like, what medication are you on? I'm like, Scotch and cigars, and they're like, that's not a medication. I'm like, what is everyone else on? She'll be like, 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds will come to their office and they have a list of what they're on. And I'm like, what a bunch of pansies. It's like, it's a different world.
Thing is, Stephen, even diseases have to draw the line somewhere. Know what I mean?
Well, you get to my age, they just they can't survive. I'm just, I was here, so that's why.
You've had it all already. So
I've had it, given it. I was here for the plague. It was very nice.
We all have the bubonic plague. Europeans do in our DNA. Oh yeah.
Wow, it's good to know.
We're survivors.
There's something all right over
10%.
there.
10% of the world's population was left over after the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
So
good thoughts. Maybe we'll get that again. So Doris,
Yeah.
as we're having these good thoughts, let me talk about. We're talking about your book. So you went to MIT, which is like some low grade school that anybody can get into.
Yeah.
Whoa, guys, because you're talking as if we all know what that is. So
you don't know what MIT is?
Well, I personally know what it is, but it may not be other people who are listening to it in Europe or in Asia who are unaware that it's, what is it, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. It's in Cambridge, Boston.
Yes.
It's across the river from this other place called Harvard that you might have also heard from. It's it's one of the best technical schools in the world.
I thought it was a fashion store.
We pretend to be one twice a year.
So you went to MIT, then you studied a subject that like only four of you studied.
Yeah.
And then you were on Wall Street for a while.
Well, then I got a PhD. So for my undergrad, I went to MIT with the idea of wanting to be a professional mathematician.
Okay.
So I was I was a big nerd, math nerd. I liked sports too, but really loved math. And so I studied theoretical math at MIT. And I decided I wanted to be the first woman to win the Fields Medal. I'm happy to say that's already been done by 2 women since my aspirations at 20. So the first one was an Iranian American mathematician who won the Fields Medal. Unfortunately, she passed away, but she's a completely brilliant woman. And the second one is a Ukrainian woman who studies 3D spatial geometry and this thing called sphere packing, which is like the most optimal way to pack spheres within a given area, like a cube or something like that. I don't want to get into the maths, but it's fascinating, and she's done really great work there. But my aspirations were to go to MIT, be the first woman to win the Fields Medal. So in pursuit of that, I continued a PhD at NYU in mathematics. I ended up studying this thing called random matrix theory and applied some results that I produced in random matrix theory to studying the whole options markets. And I decided I just didn't have the temperament for it. The work itself was too isolating, however beautiful I found it. So I decided to move into, applying my math skills into studying the financial markets. And basically I've been doing some semblance of that since for the past 15 years.
Very cool.
Can I just roll back then to was it you talking about fields? What exactly is that? What is that a standard or?
This is fields.
It's like a subject. It's like a subject. Do you know what? Like a field is like another way we say a subject. Okay. So it could be like biology or mathematics or physics or whatever.
You see, because I have to, I'm slightly below the IQ. I have a slightly less IQ than the other people who are listening to this, so they already know. But I'm a bit behind the curve on that one. So I try, because one of the things that you very often find is that because it's like normal for you, that people just roll into it.
I do this a lot, so thank you for that.
No, it's not. It's we all do it. I do it. Stephen does it. We all do it. So sometimes you have to roll it back to simplicity. So for all the young. For all the young adults who are it's their first time they're hearing this stuff. So,
absolutely.
For the young girls that want to be mathematicians and get a PhD.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
I will say that there's a lot of very strong women role models in the book, and male too. So I think this is one of the reasons that the women are very unlike what's traditionally fed to young girls, and I was intentional about that a little bit.
No, like I said, it's a great read. I don't want to give anything away because I think if you talk about one thing, it gives it to me. It's like the whole thing. You gotta sit down. It's a nice 2 or 3 hour read. You just sit there and you're done. And it's like I started it one morning at 9 and like with a cigar, and by 11:30, 12, I was done. And I was like, this is a great read. It was like all of a sudden I was halfway through my cigar, and then I got through the book, so it was very good. But so it's just a nice book to read with a cigar, so I enjoyed it.
Even if you're 14.
Even if if you're 14 and you live outside the United States, knock yourself out. If you're in the United States, I think you have to be 21 or something, so I can't help you.
Be
Yeah,
a
Scotch and
ridiculous
Cigar was a
age.
good
Yeah,
read.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
so
join the army and get
that's
killed
how I read all
at
my books.
18. But
Yeah. Yeah, but it was good.
yeah, I
So
think
what else do you want to
it's
tell us about
interesting.
the book
No, I
before
want to
you
roll.
we
I
yeah.
just want to roll
Oh,
back to something because the
Yeah,
Doris,
go for it.
Doris was almost apologetic about being nerdy, and I also
Right.
Oh no,
wonder.
I'm not.
Okay,
I might have come
good.
across that way, but I'm not apologetic. No.
Okay, good, because I have several people that I see almost on a daily basis who also are terribly apologetic that they're nerdy, and yeah,
Oh.
I just think why?
Everybody has to be a little bit nerdy.
I think so.
Yeah.
Everyone's a nerd in their own way.
Well,
But
the best people are.
were you teased because were you teased at school because you were good at maths?
No, I was one of those lucky kids that was very good at something and nerdy about it, but it was also socially inept. Not inept, socially adaptable to a lot of different groups. So I didn't have the traditional sort of like bullying or whatever. I can get along socially with people, which is good. And I was always really into sports, which helped.
Yeah.
I played basketball in high school.
Okay.
And who knew? She's only 3'6" when I met her, so very short. So it's
Well,
hard
the way I'm
looking
at the moment at this screen, I think I'm the basketball player because you two are a couple of midgets.
I know, right? We were all like it. Our chairs were low and we're really short and whatnot. So, but yeah, but no, this is a nice story for the kids. No, this is a good story for the kids. It's like you can do anything you put your mind to.
Oh yeah. I
think to me it's more than that. I think it's a story essentially about resiliency. So you have this girl whose father is not emotionally available to her. She is very lucky in some ways because she's surrounded by these very brilliant adults, right? Like her aunt is this biotech unicorn startup founder. Her dad is a genius at making computer video games. Her mom was incredibly, involved in her upbringing and a very smart and wise women. And she's had all of these sort of personas in her life, which are very extraordinary. But at the same time, she has this enormous trauma and tragedy that happens to her at 13, and she's also 13, which comes with its own. So it's a story about coming of age, massive growing pains, and also there's so many ways to say this without giving anything away in the book, but the trauma that freedom of choice inflicts in adults, but especially in children. You have the world at your fingertips via technology and cell phones, and how do you deal with that? And that's essentially the question that really haunts her, and that's a question that she tries to get answers to, and she ultimately does. Sort of how this technology become subservient to people. How do humans reclaim their role as, masters of Earth versus the other way around, people subservient to technology? I think it's a very deep story at some level because it connects what contemporary society is going through with AI and with technology and with the massive battle that all parents have to fight between, social media and screen time and competition for their children's attention at a level that's completely unprecedented in the history of humanity. And this is essentially what the story is about, wrapped up in a lot of grief that this girl has to overcome. So it's like there was this brilliant, vital girl, and her mom dies. And even before her mom dies and she blames herself for the death, you can see a change in her because of technology. She loses interest in self-discovery and creation. She just, she's like on Instagram and TikTok all day, and something happens to her. And her mom is very alarmed by this because the girl herself has no insight into what's happening. And then she realizes, oh shoot, my mom is kind of right, and I see these changes and they don't feel good. And then she has to deal with so many things that most 13-year-olds don't have to. But in order to learn from a protagonist or a heroine or a hero, they have to deal with the extreme of what adolescents have to deal with now in order to kind of see that hero's journey from beginning to end in a way that resonates with as many people as possible. So the story can be read on many levels. It will be read on many levels by an eight-year-old versus a 42-year-old, but it is as profound as you want it to be. And it hits on a lot of very difficult and I think evergreen themes that humanity is dealing with.
Yeah, it sounds really like a lot of.
We don't have to do anything now. That was the whole thing.
No.
There's
a lot of. I mean, yeah.
I know. I will say this though. I will say this when you're talking about Instagram and TikTok and parents have to fight for their kids' time. No, they don't. That's why you're the parent. You take I firmly believe in what the Chinese. If you're under 18, you can only be on the phone 2 hours a day. I also believe in the way other countries have it, like you shouldn't get a phone until you're 16, 17, or 18. There's no reason a kid under the age of 16 needs a phone. No reason.
I completely agree with you, but I'm a parent with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old is the amount of effort we have to put in to sort of oversee how much screen time he has is tremendous. It's literally like a full-time job. And also, so he has certain games that he can play and he's very good at. For example, he loves Minecraft, and we're okay with him playing an hour of Minecraft a day. And he literally plays with other kids that are 14 and 18, and they don't even know he's 6. So he's very good at that. And we're like, okay, great. He enjoys this. He's really good. It's a good game. He can do it. But then he goes for play dates, and literally these kids, they have no supervision into what they can play. So you have 6-year-olds playing Call of Duty. I'm like, are you? So my son comes home and he's like, this is what we played. And my husband and I are looking at each other like, this is nuts. So to your point, yes, it's possible to create a bubble around your kid. It is so difficult on the parents to maintain the integrity of that bubble and to keep the bubble going until the kid, goes from 6 to 16 or 18 or however long you want to keep the bubble going.
But
it's just very difficult.
When we were all kids, and I don't know how old you are, but when David and I were kids,
I'm 37.
Okay, so this is before you. We're alive longer than you. But when David and I were kids, there was cave art, and we discovered fire, and it was very exciting for us. But the other thing is that yes, we love the flint. But when we were kids, when you came home from school, you went outside and played. You rode your bike, you played basketball,
100%,
and
100%. That's how I grew up as well.
In fact, and then the other thing which was interesting, and someone said this to me the other day, and I remember when I was a kid at 10 o'clock, the newscasters would come on and go, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Why? Because we were out playing and the parents were like, oh yeah. And then they open the screen door and they call your name and you would come home because it was like you were out playing.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think the world is legitimately more dangerous now? Like if you were a parent, would you be more concerned? And maybe you are, I don't know if you are, would you be legitimately more concerned, or do you think it's just more exposure to what can go wrong and parents are more paranoid?
Are you asking a question or making a statement, Doris?
No, I'm asking the question.
I actually think it's both. I think she actually makes a statement and asking a question. In my opinion,
exactly.
I think the world has always been dangerous. I think with the advent of 24-hour need to know, yada, 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 Amber Alert, this alert, that alert, oh my God, ring, blah, 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 blah. What happened is that we've taken a global planet and we've literally put it into your living room. So now where news would take 2 or 3 weeks to get to you, or you wouldn't see it until 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock news, now every 10 seconds you get an alert about something. So I think it was as dangerous. And I think now because of it, parents are more like, oh my God. But I also think, like when I was growing up, for kids, it wasn't as dangerous. There was still sort of a health, and I grew up in New York City. Yeah. So, I grew up with the pimps and the drugs and the hookers and whatever, and they worked for us. No, but it was very, it was like, I remember when 42nd Street was 3-card Monte and pimps and drugs. That was New York. But, when you were a kid, they left you alone. They weren't. No one's trying to abduct you. No one's trying to do anything to you. And then all of a sudden, in the 90s or maybe even the late 80s, all of a sudden, the world became a very dangerous place for children. And I think I've partly now because of the internet, it's more dangerous. But so when I was growing up, we didn't have these problems. Like when we went out and played, No one was like, you had your 25 cents in your pocket. So when the ice cream guy came, you could buy like an ice cream cone or whatever it was.
100%.
So it was a much different world. Like if we went on a bike ride for 10 miles away from that, nobody cared. They knew we were coming home. No one was trying to abduct us. And then like I said, in the 80s, 90s, all of a sudden the world snapped. And I'm not sure why, but then it all of a sudden just became a dangerous place like overnight. It's like for kids, for everybody. So I'm not sure what happened.
I think the world's always been a dangerous place. I mean, my mother would, and it would be on TV as well. If a stranger is offering you sweets, etc., be careful.
Yeah.
So that's the late 60s and 70s for me. Knife crime has always been a big thing because we don't have guns, so you have to kill people slightly slower. But
swords,
we had
torture, Inquisition.
Yeah, so we had a lot. We had
Reading.
a lot of football violence around sports events. That's still here today. It's just moved out of the stadiums and gone around the stadiums. So therefore, the stadiums are clean, but they're not. It's just as much violence around big sports events. But I think the danger has always been the same. It is a bloody dangerous world we live in. But I think I'd have to agree with Stephen. What's happening is that the anxiety around that danger,
that's right,
has quickened, and that's the thing. So it's right in your face now. So it doesn't matter where you turn, there's fear and anxiety around you. And if it's not your own, from your own neighborhood or your own school or your own country, that it's for some other idiot somewhere around the world that's bombing somebody or having a war or whatever.
And when I was a kid, we were encouraged to take candy, go for rides with strangers in vans. We lived in a different time.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, take the candy, go for the ride. No, you'll be back. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
6 months.
That's
good. So
I agree with both of you. I think they're like
children.
Go ahead.
Children being dangerous. I mean, the amount of sexual abuse done through the churches here in Europe is astounding. So were children safer then? Oh yeah, we just send them off to church or they go off to the choir practice. No, it's like I said.
We're Jewish, David. We don't care about those Catholic kids. What are you kidding? Come on. So you got what you got. You got to pretend religion. You got 10 guys with dog collars.
Are you saying now that you have a monopoly? So it is now a Jewish monopoly on pedophilia? Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh no, we don't do that. We don't believe in that. We're Jews. No, we believe in making money. So we don't believe in pedophilia. Right. There's no money in it. So that's why the rabbi guilts you into giving money, and that's why for every holy holiday you have to pay to go. Where you guys, you go, you give a little money. We go, it's like, oh, you want to come? You have to pay. So even just to sit in the back.
Yeah,
so
it's free. The Christian church is easy. It's free to get in. You have to pay to get out. Because there'll be somebody come around with a little bag, shaking it in front of you. Give me money, give me money.
Yeah, we just write you a check. We can't be bothered. Write a check, buy a ticket, call it a day. Doris, so Doris, what were you going to say? You agree with both of us, and then David went off on.
Oh, I was just going to say the sense that I get. For me, it wasn't the 80s or 90s. I was barely alive then, but but I think.
Thanks
sorry.
For name.
So I do also live.
I'm talking about the year 80, by the way, not 19 or 18. The year 80 is what we're talking about.
We were not okay. I got it. None of us were alive. So I did notice a sudden shift in. So I also live in New York City. I raised my kids in New York City. I did notice a sudden shift after COVID. And basically, the way I would put it is, there's nothing sacred anymore. So before COVID, it was like kids and old people. Like no matter who you are, you just don't touch them. Like they're kids. They're like, an 80-year-old woman in a cane, like just leave her alone. Now there's none of that. So there's stories of, kids getting beaten up, little girls getting spit on in Times Square. And also myself personally, it's sort of like 7 years ago when I was pregnant with my son, I would get on the subway and everybody would get up, stand up. And, I was clearly very young, very healthy, but I was pregnant. It's like a pregnant woman. 3 years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter, so this was like around COVID or around 2021 or so, nobody cared. Wow. Everybody was staring at their cell phone. They would just look at me and like, whatever, figure it out. Like, dog eat dog, very individual, like nothing is sacred, nothing matters. And I think it's a reflection
was that not the message? Was that not the message from COVID?
That is exactly right. That's exactly right. So I think
a lot of people have woken up. There's a lot of people now seeing things in a completely different way. And one of those things is, hey, it's me now. You could have a disease. Go away. It's me. I need to look after myself. Self. That's. Really
there was certainly a massive disintegration of community, and that's like a whole other podcast. There's very good reasons as to why that is. It's a sad thing, but hopefully we find our way back because, life is
No,
not so much
we
fun
won't.
without, we won't,
We're
but
not.
that's sad.
Here's why. I was brought up very old school. I mean, like as a gentleman, right? You get the door, you sit, you read the whole like thing. And I still do this today. I walk on the side of traffic, the whole 9 yards. There's no parenting anymore. And the parents
Mhm.
that do parent are a novelty. Like your book, it's a novelty, a good novelty. But parenting today is a novelty. When I was growing up, there was no novelty. Your mother and father were not your friends. They were your parents. Like my mom said, I won't breastfeed you. I just like you as a friend. I'm like, I got that. So I'm good. So, but I mean, like, and if you were bad, you got a smack. And they don't care if it was in public, private, whatever. So you learned at an early age to be a young man or a young lady, because if not, you were going to get a smack. And they didn't care. In fact, in those days, strangers could smack you if you were bad, right? I mean, and to an extent, I'm okay with that, because these kids today are little brats and somebody should smack them. But then, in fact, I remember one of my friends about 10 years ago, his kid said, if you hit me, to his parents, he goes, I'm going to call social services on you. So I forgot my cell phone. So I'm going to do it now and we can just get you going. And he was like, what? And then I started to cry, and that killed all. And my buddy's like, how did you know? I go, dude, that's just their line. It's all bull. And if they call, let them call. Let them go there for a day. They'll want to come home.
Yeah.
But the problem is today is parents want to be their kids' friends. They don't want to hit them. They don't want to do this. They don't want, we're going to hug. No, we're not going to hug you. They don't want to punish them. They give them their phone because that's the parent. So to a lot of the issues, that's the issue. They don't make them sit and read a book. They don't make them go out and play. They don't, like, the kids come home. What do? What's the first thing they do? Go on the computer, right? When we came home, the first thing we did was either A, you did your homework and then you went out and played, or B, you went out and played, and then you had to come home, eat dinner, take your bath, do your homework. They don't do that
That's
anymore.
right.
But that's the parent. That's not the child. The child only knows what a parent teaches them. But at your age, if you will, there's a whole generation at your age that were brought up by a phone or a laptop, not a parent. So they're just teaching what they know. So to find somebody that's old school, whether they're a million years old like me or someone in their 20s, it's a rarity. And
there's a caveat to this, though. Of course, there's a caveat to this that if you had been watching this and we were in our 30s, old miserable old farts would be saying the same thing about us. So every generation bitches about the younger, that they don't have any respect and they don't do this and they don't do that. So there's an element of that in it as well. And so they say, oh yeah, it's just because you're old. But but it has accelerated. I do see things around me where I think, oh, blimey, if I'd have done that, I've been in serious problems. And again, you hear kids mouthing off to their parents as well. I mean, my mother would have put a bar of soap in my mouth.
Yeah.
So,
brown soap.
Now, is that right? Is that wrong? Is that child abuse? Probably. Should she be reported?
Listen, you're cleaning the mouth. It's like toothpaste with better. Stop it. Don't be a puss. So, well, listen, before we go off on a tangent, if Doris wants to come back, we'll have a whole subject on what's wrong with the world and why kids
boy. Not my area of expertise.
It's not ours either, but who cares? That's what's nice about this. You can voice your opinion. So for everybody listening and watching, the book is called Ada and the Supercomputer.
Ada and the Supercomputer.
We will put the link. There you go. There's a copy of the book for everybody. There's Ada, the little girl right there. There's the supercomputer. And then there's a secret symbol on the side. You have to read the book to find out what it is. The book, there you go. The book is for young adults. Here, hold on. Let's just do this. There you go. Hold it up. You got a whole screen to yourself now. There you go. There's a little thing. Ada and the supercomputer. There's the symbol. You have to read the book to find out what it is. We will put the link for Amazon so you guys can read that and find it if you'd like it. It's a book for young adults, not children. Apparently, somebody said that was wrong.
8+. So it's 8+. There are some precocious kids out there.
So the good thing is,
I was thinking,
all our audience.
I was thinking, every PTA should have a copy of this, because it sounds to me very much as if parents need to read this as much as the kids do.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Are there still PTAs?
I think so.
I mean,
I read it in a book. So
there is one at my kids' school, so I think so.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
School. The kids should read it. Every kid.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And they can have an autographed copy. So get this book while you can, because I'm sure Doris will be writing a sequel, and then she'll just be too big to come on our show and talk about it. She'll be like J.K.
Never.
Rowling. You'll never
Yeah.
get it. You'll never get an autographed copy. So enjoy it now.
This will all be deleted by then, Stephen. So
that's probably this. We'll all be in our AI world. Doris, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
putting up with
guys.
our
It's
nonsense.
been a pleasure. Thank you.
Everybody enjoyed the book. Once again, it's 8 a.m. the Supercomputer. Don't forget to subscribe and like. You can see us on the podcast, or you can listen to us, or vice versa. See us on YouTube, or see us on the podcast. And on the podcast, Two Old Farts Making Noises. And you can catch the show and all the other shows there. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. David, take us home. And hang out with us for a second, Doris. Housekeeping.
Yeah, I was just going to say one last thing. If we did diverse from talking about Doris's book today, it's because the what you've tried to cover in that we very much were talking about today as well. So the book was an extension of the interview. That's all. Thank you, Doris.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Stephen. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.